Okay, welcome to this short video where I wanted to kind of break down my most recent render. Kind of break down the technical structure of it and how I did it in Blender, but also I wanted to analyze a few problems and a few mistakes I did, because actually the render is pretty old, not really, but it's I made it about 2 months ago. In the last 2 months I didn't really have much time to do stuff in 3D. Firstly, I wanted to kinda break down and explain the mistakes I did, especially in the composition and the art direction of the whole shot. And then I also obviously wanted to just break down how I did it in Blender for people who maybe want to see how I did certain things, for instance the texturing or other stuff. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is a mistake I did in the composition, because when I started the project I wanted to have a person here walking along this path, and I wanted to shift the center of attention from here to the helicopter and kind of create this golden ratio effect of composition. The mistake that I did is afterwards I added this pathway here with very kind of attention grabbing lines right here, which completely broke the idea of the golden ratio. And I kind of wanted to have two things of two different worlds, kinda. So because what I could have done is completely leave the golden ratio thing and just draw or just have two lines right here, and then to use this building of the center of attention. But obviously with that helicopter that doesn't really work. Also, that building in this form of the render would be too distracting because it's as bright as the other one. So yeah, that's one mistake. Or as I said, I could have just done the golden ratio thing, but then I should have completely made that way darker. Okay, so the next thing that kind of bothers me is that there are just things that do not really make any sense and that I just didn't think of before I started rendering it. This turret here makes no sense. You can't really, it can't really shoot the whole range because there are buildings. From a military point of view, which that should be a military base, it would be way smarter to place it here or up there, or maybe up here. You wouldn't be able to see it, but still. But placing it here makes no sense at all. And that's a thing that is repeatedly happening in the whole picture. That stuff is just not making any sense. And obviously also for me, it's hard to do stuff in 3D that 100% makes sense, because you start a project and you only want to make a beautiful image, and you don't really think about the typical stuff you always hear about: world building, making stuff not only look realistic but also seem realistic, and that's just important. Also, looking back at it with a bit of distance from making and rendering the whole project, it's kind of weird to see that this military base or whatever this is completely stops here. It would have made much more sense if you would have a lot more going on here, and maybe even there. But having this this block here where stuff is in it, you have this helicopter and stuff like that, blah blah blah, but nothing back here. To me that feels weird looking now at it with a bit of distance. And what is also a problem is that the image in general is just too dark. I love making dark renders, dark scenes, but in general, if you have the problem that you cannot see much if it's very bright outside, for instance, right now in my room, that's a dimmed room. It's no problem to see everything, but if you're outside and you can't see a lot in your scene on, I don't know, your phone, that's a problem. So in general, looking back at it, I would have made it a bit brighter. So one thing where you can really see that in the end I just wanted to finish the project and press render is that right here in this path and over there, there is basically no soul in the whole texture. It kind of even looks like a blank white texture, which is, it's not. I know it because I made the render, but still, it looks like it, and that's a problem. It looks completely soulless. There is even one thing missing. Also here, in general, yeah. That's just one thing to try in general to avoid. If you have those just empty spaces that just screams 3D and not realistic, you wouldn't have something like that in a real military base. Also, one thing that's a technical mistake that I did is the smoke that comes from the helicopter. If you just skip through it, it looks pretty cool. I mean, it's probably a bit too dense if you think that it's just dust, but I think it looks cool. The problem is that it's timed horribly. I mean, look at that. Boom. That doesn't make any sense. That's just something where it just comes down to looking at references and watching how the real world behaves. And I think, I don't know where this phrase "watching how the real world behaves" comes from, maybe Einhubert or Blender Guru, but that's something every 3D artist says that. The honest reality of why it looks so bad is also because when I did this, that was like the first like Houdini project I did on my own, and I didn't really knew how to do it better than that, so I just had to leave it at that. I think now I will be able to do the whole thing a bit better, but still, you know, it's always good if you really want to make a portfolio. For me right now, I'm just doing that as a hobby, so it doesn't really matter. But if you really want to try to land a job in 3D, which is already hard enough right now, but still, I would recommend to really go the extra mile and try to just make it better than that. And also one thing before I really start to break down the whole scene is to maybe explain where this guy comes from. That's not a 3D person, that's VFX, that's 2D. And you can see it because it's keyed pretty poorly, but whatever. And yeah, it's from a very popular site called Action VFX. They have a lot of practice footage, which is perfect if you want to practice. I mean, most of the footage is not, obviously not on the level of a professional movie footage, but still, it's super useful to practice. And I mean, obviously, if you want to practice, it's not about getting the best footage. If you want to know how you can do this, just type in Ian Hubert VFX. I just wanted to say that the way he approaches this is he places the person in the 3D world, which I'm not completely sure about this, but I think that's a very unorthodox way to do it, and I think that's not the way you would do it in an industry pipeline, so be aware of that. But still, as I said it, if you want to just do it the quick and dirty way, this is just perfect. But still, I think that's not industry standard. Okay, so unfortunately I cannot show you the textures because I deleted my textures a few days ago. All of my textures, I've lost all of them, but it's pretty easy to explain. There are, I think, 90% of the textures are from textures.com, and also here, I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but it's just the Ian Hubert way, the very quick and dirty way, where you can see it here still, you just lay lay a plane down and then just add one material. As I said, I don't have the materials anymore, but yeah, that's just the way you would approach that. For instance, that here, that's not painted onto the texture, that's just one of those many planes right here, and then just a grunge texture, add an alpha to it, so it's transparent, and that's just the way that works. Okay, so at last I wanted to show you guys how I modeled the stuff, and what I even modeled. Spoiler, I modeled not a lot. This turret here is just from CG Trader, it's even free, just type in turret and you will find it. I think I just added a metal texture onto it and kinda made it work. You know, it was a night scene, so it doesn't really matter how good it looks, because you weren't really able to see it anyways. This thing here is, that's a bit complicated. The thing right here, that whole thing is an asset from Iron that's a Grabble asset from his Patreon, and then I also added this part down here with pipes and this sci-fi-esque, yeah, also gravel thing, structure, gravel thing, whatever. Yeah, the building is just a mixture of a lot of things. Again, you have those sci-fi gravel structures here. Then you have this thing right here, which is just modeled by myself. I mean, that's the easiest thing to model. And then I also added those sci-fi objects that I just found on CG Trader for free. Yeah, that's no rocket science right here. The helicopter landing pad was modeled by myself, but again, it's not very complicated. I mean, that was, you can see it here, that's just a plane with a wireframe modifier, so you can like create the illusion of a lot of detail. Again, this thing here, this fence type of thing here was also modeled by myself. Yeah, also not very complicated. The helicopter is also from CG Trader. Yeah, those things are, that's an asset I paid for. Yeah, that's also a Grabble type of asset for rooftops, which comes in really handy if you want to add just extra details on the roof of your buildings. Yeah, again, that building, I mean, also that's no rocket science, was also modeled by myself. This is a asset still, I mean, yeah, that's very easy to model. I mean, that's no rocket science either. The lighting is also kept very simple. You have this big light where the helicopter is at, then those small lightings where I just wanted to add a little bit of detail right here where the person is at. But yeah, that's about it. So, oops, yeah, not really much, not very complicated stuff right here. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit of my post-processing steps. That's an effect that I love. It's called halation, which happens when film cameras capture footage. Digital cameras do not create that effect. The effect that I mean is this red glare kind of thing. You can see it here, looks gorgeous. As I said, very important that you just add it if you wanna create the look of a film camera, because digital cameras do not create that effect. So the way that I approach this is I just added the effect in Houdini, not Houdini, DaVinci Resolve. It's not very complicated. You just go into the effects tab, then type in halation. If you go to open effects, and then yeah, just drag it into this node and you will get it. Also, I've used a little bit of glow, and you can't really see it. It's very, very subtle. So another thing that you can add, which I mean nearly everybody's familiar with, that is film grain, which also kind of adds to the effect of a camera. Yeah, also try to color grade it and not be stupid like me and just add lots. Yeah, but in general, that's about it. That's how you create a scene like that.